August 1759. The fate of Britain would rest on the seas off Portugal. An armada had been assembled by France to invade, and the success of their ruse lay in the fleet of Vice Admiral Jean-François de la Clue-Sabran, cruising through the Strait of Gibraltar to join forces at Brest. If they were successful, the navy of Britain would be outgunned, and the army of the French could march across the Channel. But waiting in the shadows was Admiral Sir Edward Boscawen, his fleet exhausted from previous combat, but ready to strike. The stage was set for the Battle of Lagos, a battle that would rage over 2 days, August 18th and 19th, and decide whether Britain would fall under invasion or stay unbent. It was 1759, and the 7 Years' War was raging across the globe. Defeated in North America and the Caribbean, France sought the knockout blow against Britain, invasion of the English Channel. The plan was daring: concentrate their Mediterranean squadron under Vice Admiral Clue-Sabran, with the Atlantic squadron at Brest, then sweep into the Channel under huge escort. There, thousands of French troops would be dumped onto English shores. But Britain's Admiralty, never far behind, ordered Admiral Edward Boscawen to shadow the French, blockade Gibraltar Strait, and strike if they attempted to force their way through. Mid-August, Leclue's 12-line vessels, including his flagship Océan, slipped out of Toulon, skirting the Spanish coast. Boscawen's fleet, 14 ships in all, waited, their sails sewn, crews weary, but willing to take one last risk. Vice Admiral Jean-François de la Clue-Sabran tried on the night of August 17, 1759, to take his fleet of 12 ships, including his flagship Océan, through the Strait of Gibraltar. A cloud obscured the moonlight, and the sails were black to make them invisible. A neutral merchant ship found them, with hurried dispatches for Admiral Sir Edward Boscawen at Gibraltar. Before dawn, Boscawen, ill though he was, deployed in HMS Namur and immediately ordered the chase to be given. The British fleet drove west into the Atlantic, mended sails taut with wind. The French line was thinned, its cohesion frittering. Before the afternoon, the British had closed, and the chase of the French rearguard, starting with such vessels as Centaur and Modeste, was underway. This quest would culminate in the decisive Battle of Lagos, Portugal. The British force closed relentlessly on the French by August 18, 1759. Vice Admiral Clue-Sabran ordered his quicker ships to move ahead and leave the slower ones behind at Cape St. Vincent. The French were trying to reach neutral Portuguese waters off Lagos for refuge, but Admiral Boscawen, commanding HMS Namur, HMS Newark, and HMS Warspite, pursued relentlessly. Cannon crews stood by, sailors holding on as the waves crested higher. At around noon, the deepest rear French ship, Centaur, was in range. Broadsides tore through her rigging and hull, masts splintered, and sails rent. Fatigued, Centaur lowered her colours, the first of several French casualties. The chase continued, but the British were now ahead, setting the stage for a full-fledged battle off Lagos Bay. By late afternoon of August 18, 1759, the forward ships of Boscawen battled the French rearguard off Lagos Bay. HMS Namur sailed bow on Océan, and HMS Warspite and HMS Newark engaged Temeraire and other French vessels. Cannons bellowed across the sea, masts shattered, decks shattered, and smoke clung close over the water. Leclue raced wildly, but the British pushed on, seeking rigging to paralyze movement. The French formation grew disordered, gaps developing. In the evening, Leclue ordered a retreat to neutral Portuguese waters. The British ignored neutrality, determined to send the French squadron to the bottom before they could gain escape. By August 19, 1759 morning, the remaining French ships of Vice Admiral Clue-Sabran arrived in Lagos Bay, Portugal, under Portuguese neutrality. Their flagship Océan was damaged, and slower ships like Centaur and Modeste trailed behind. But Admiral Boscawen, with HMS Namur, HMS Warspite, HMS Newark, ignored neutrality and followed the attack. British broadsides pounded French hulls, shattered rigging, and seawater and blood-slick decks. Océan grounded to prevent capture as boarding parties overflowed her wet decks. French officers battled in vain, but the British captured the rest of the ships methodically. midday witnessed the battle in Lagos Bay at its peak, with the French fleet in disarray and scattered, unable to threaten Britain's Channel coast. Sometime later, some French vessels tried to flee deeper into Lagos Bay on the 19th of August, 1759. HMS America, HMS Newark, and HMS Warspite pursued them relentlessly. The disabled and single French vessel, Modeste, was taken. Her crew surrendered after severe broadsides. Other French vessels, seeing capture certain, were driven ashore and set alight intentionally so that they could not be taken over by the British. The bay was littered with wreckage, broken masts, floating flotsam, and rent sails. Exhausted British Marines took prisoners and boarded seized ships. Lagos waters narrated the story of the battle, an echo of British naval dominance. For France, it was a calamity. 5 ships lost or seized, dozens dead, and their Mediterranean squadron scattered beyond hope of redemption. This final mop-up ensured Britain's command of the Channel and thwarted France's invasion plan. By the evening of August 19, 1759, the Battle of Lagos Bay was decisively concluded. The French Mediterranean fleet of Vice Admiral Jean-François de la Clue-Sabran was annihilated. Flagship Océan driven ashore and captured, Centaur and Modeste sunk, and several smaller vessels burned. Admiral Sir Edward Boscawen's squadron, consisting of HMS Namur, HMS Warspite, HMS Newark, and HMS America, had achieved complete victory. Britain's mastery of the seas was reasserted, and the threat of French invasion across the Channel evaporated. News of Lagos, together with later victories at Quiberon Bay and Minden, rendered 1759 Britain's Annus Mirabilis, a year of wonders. People cheered in the streets of London, and Boscawen was acclaimed for relentless pursuit and tactical brilliance. The win ensured the security of British shores and cemented the dominance of the Royal Navy for centuries to come.